So guys, we finally made it. Ant-Man marks the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2. However, did we end on a high note? Ant-Man is directed by Peyton Reed and stars Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michael Pena, and Corey Stoll. The story follows Scott Lang, played by Paul Rudd, who has just gotten out of prison after a search for burglary, and after working with his friend Louise, who's played by Michael Pena, he is recruited by Hank Pym, Michael Douglas, to become the Ant-Man and to help bring down a company that is trying to use the Ant-Man technology as a weapon of evil. Now let me start off by saying that this is definitely the most visually stunning movie by Marvel I've ever seen. From the moment that Scott shrinks down to the Ant-Man, everything around him becomes visually amazing. The fight scenes that he's in, the training, the ants that he works with is just awesome. Another great thing about this movie is that it is funny throughout the entire movie. Not only is it written by the guys who directed and wrote Anchorman, Talladega Nights, The Other Guys, Step Brothers, and Anchorman 2, also directed by the guys who did Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End. These guys know how to properly write comedy into serious scenes and seriousness into comedy scenes, and it definitely shows in this movie. There are a lot of scenes that started out really serious, but then completely were hilarious in one point because of something Paul Rudd said in this movie, or Michael Pena said. While we're on that topic, let's talk about Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, who absolutely kills it in this role. Paul Rudd makes Scott Lang, a burglar, one of the most likable people in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's charismatic, he's funny, he's really smart in a lot of this movie, and Paul Rudd executes this perfectly in this film. Michael Douglas also does a great job in this movie as Hank Pym. Hank Pym has a great backstory to him, and he's also one of the most interesting characters in the entire movie. Michael Douglas pulls off this role superbly. No bit of dialogue seems out of place with him. All the scenes that cause emotion are more emotional because he's in this role. He's awesome. And Michael Pena is one of my favorite people in this movie because he is super funny throughout. Every bit of dialogue that comes out of his mouth is funny. Every scene he's in is funny. Everything about his character is just great. You can see that he really cares for Scott throughout the entire movie, and Michael Pena just does a great job at it throughout the entire film. Now, I do have some problems with this film. The first one being the storyline for it. The storyline is pretty generic and predictable. Not that it's not fun, it is really fun throughout the entire movie, but the problem is that based on the first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie, I could predict what was going to happen within the next hour and 15 minutes of it. Along with this, there are some scenes that are a little bit too short or some scenes that are a little bit too long. For example, there's an entire scene devoted to Scott training to be Ant-Man, which I'm fine with, but they drag this scene out over a long period of time using repetitive jokes over and over again, and though they do add some serious parts to it, it doesn't really make up for it. Also, the main villain in this movie is just kind of a generic one at best. It's exactly like kind of Jurassic World, where you have the main guy who's like, we should weaponize this and sell this and we'll make tons of money, and that's just the generic villain who's supposed to be evil the entire movie and there's never a redeeming point to him. There was some great visual effects throughout, a really funny screenplay, a cast that fits their roles really well, especially Paul Rudd and Michael Douglas. However, with some structural issues in the movie, a generic and predictable storyline, and a kind of generic villain, this movie isn't one of my favorite Marvel movies, but it definitely still is a lot of fun to go watch. I would go watch it again, and I will give Ant-Man 4 stars. So guys, if you see Ant-Man, let me know below what you think of it and how it compares to all the other movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and if it was a good send-off for Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2. As always guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.